I don't need to give you the whole history of Dixon Place and my life story because you've all been here 100 times. You know, even if you haven't been here before, you don't need to know. It's not important at all. But I do want to tell you to, turn off your phones or silence them or whatever you do. Let's see. It's like I just got this phone. I hate it. It was a mistake. They didn't. Oh, okay. All right, my name's Elle, and I work here. No, I do. But no, I actually don't really very much at all. I'm just getting ready to retire. But when I started at Dixon Place, and you won't see it, unfortunately, in the thing, but in my living room, it's 40 years ago. So this is a birthday week, actually. That's actually the day, the 40th anniversary opening of the show. So it's like perfect. Wow. So anyway, I'm just real excited about the show and about you all being here. Seeing somebody get okay. So okay. So that's it. And all I have to say is there's no intermission. It's only like four and a half hours. It's real fast. Really fast. You'll want to come and see it again. But this is the last night, which I'm not happy about. Maybe they'll keep it. So if you are new here, I just want to say thank you for drinking because that's important. We're like the only nonprofit bar in New York, so we do appreciate it. Supports what goes on in here, and just drink as much as you possibly can. And get up there. All right. I'm so honored. I do want to thank Mo and everybody at Pickup Company because they have been amazing. Everything that they've done. It's done a great job. It's been great working with them. So with that, I will say. Again, thank you for coming. Enjoy the show.
Good? Okay. Entrance applause and an entrance noise. Okay, Ed, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Alyssa?
Yep.
Okay, let's start. You want to bring the house lights down and bring up the pretty lights? Hello, gay, curious audience. I'm Mo, and thanks for coming to this sit-down walking tour. This used to be gay. Okay, first of all, disclaimer, I am not a trained historian, but I have lived in New York City since 1979. Yeah. Back when things were a lot shabbier and cheaper and, in some cases, gayer. But a little background about me, I grew up in zip code 20007. That is in the United States, but it is not in a state. I grew up in this house in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, our nation's capital. Here is a more recent street view image of the house. It is painted a tragic shade of yellow. But when I was a kid, it was a subtle, dusty pink. Here's my brother and sister and I on the stoop of the house. I'm 5 years old. It's Halloween, and we are wearing costumes our mother has made for us. We appear to be playing cards. Yeah, okay. I'm sure there was an adult joke about that I didn't take in, But anyway, in 1979, I moved to zip code 20012 to go to college. And 2 years later, in 1981, I moved across town east to zip code 10003 to this classic walk-up. This walk-up tenement building. I'm on the 3rd floor, so count up 3, and then the 2 windows to the right of the fire escape are the front windows into my parlor room in my 4-room classic railroad flat. Where are we, Ed? Oh yes, okay, sorry, I forgot. If you look closely in the window there, you can see my cat Taffy. Yeah, and she's looking out the window on the street, I guess, and Taffy has been dead almost 20 years, but, you know, that Taffy is here with us. This is Taffy. Yeah. She's a good girl. Okay, does anybody know what the zip in zip code means? Zone Improvement Plan. It is an acronym that the Postal Service made up for this scheme of adding 5 numbers to the end of your address to make the mail go faster. So, okay, now you have your first fact that you can scream with confidence at the television set if zip code comes up in jeopardy. Okay, Ed, can we go to the crossroads of New York Eye and Ear Infirmary and Kentucky Fried Chicken? Yeah, otherwise known as 2nd Avenue and 14th Street. Now, before my time in New York City, everything below 14th Street all the way to Fulton Street, which is around the Brooklyn Bridge, from Broadway to the East River, that whole chunk of Manhattan was the Lower East Side. And west of Broadway to the Hudson was Greenwich Village or the West Village. In 1955, the 3rd Avenue L elevated train was taken down, and this made crosstown excursions or exchange more easy. You could just, walk. I don't know. So the immigrant-y kind of east side of 3rd Avenue was no longer considered the other side of the tracks. And as rents went up in Greenwich Village on the west side, hippies, artists, beatniks surged east in search of cheap rents. And we see the first use of the term East Village in 1960 by real estate, of course, in an effort to distance itself from the urban blight of the Lower East Side. But back at 14th Street, we are at the northern boundary of what we New Yorkers call downtown, or, if we're feeling fancy, lower Manhattan. So for this tour, I will be using the names these establishments had when they used to be gay. Okay, yeah, that's what it's all about. So, Ed, can you take us to our first stop? Go down 2nd Avenue to number 181. It's on the west side of the street. Okay, here we're having a little street view fun. I suggest you play around with that. Oh yeah, there we are. Okay. People know this, right? This theater, yeah. So our first stop here is Club 181, a largely forgotten nightclub, cleverly named by the street number preceded by the word club, that was in the basement below this majestic theater. Now, this theater was built in 1926 as the Jaffe Art Theater, and it was considered the crown jewel of the Yiddish Rialto, which was 2nd Avenue from 14th Street to Houston, back when the avenue was dotted with Yiddish theaters, because this neighborhood had the largest Yiddish-speaking population in the world in 1920. But from 1945 to 51, the basement of the theater housed Club 181, which was also known as the homosexual Copacabana. So really fancy showbiz people like Frank Sinatra would come down here to slum and watch the drag queens, or as they were called in those days, female impersonators. And the wait staff was this battalion of tuxedoed butch dykes. And yeah, You know, it was a very classy place, okay? Club 181 was run by organized crime. So it was mafia-owned and operated, or MOO. And, you know, the mob not only offered employment to the gay folks, but protection, too, in these, you know, way more perilous pre-Stonewall 1940s, right? And it's not like anybody else was catering to gay people back then. And, you know, the mob, of course, saw a way to make some money. Club 181 was closed in 1951 by the New York State Liquor Authority on the grounds that it was a hangout for perverts. Okay, it was illegal to be a pervert in 1951. Now it seems to be qualification for high office in our federal government. But hey, it's good to know that humans are capable of change, right? So the building above there, the third, well, it would be the third floor, had apartments. And in the corner apartment there lived Warhol superstar Jackie Curtis. Yeah. And when Jackie moved out, the photographer Peter Hujar moved in, and also the artist David Wojnarowicz lived there, and my pal Emmett lived there before all of those guys with a community of deaf people. And Emmett could hear, so he was the one in charge of answering the shared hallway telephone when it rang. When I moved into the neighborhood in 1981, it was a different theater. It was called, well, it was the same building, but it was called the Intermedia. And I worked there a few times in the late 1980s as a theatrical electrician. And one work call, I was given a job of carrying a cable up to the top of the domed ceiling above the auditorium. Now, there was an A-frame ladder in the theater that was very old. It was probably original to the theater, like maybe they built the theater around this ladder. And it was 2 stories tall, okay, and it was wooden. And it had, it had an extension, which is called a stick, and that's a straight section that goes up like this, so then it became a 3-story ladder. Yeah, and you know, I was the smallest person on the crew, so they gave me the small person job, and I took the cable and climbed up, creaking ladder, creaking, and I just thought, don't look down, don't look down. And I looked up at the beautiful Star of David that is above the chandelier in the middle of the auditorium, and I thought, oh my God, this is such a beautiful theater. I mean, this was like, despite the peeling paint, and there were pigeons like living in the balcony, and I thought, okay, you know what? It would not be so bad to die in this temple, in this temple of theater, if I accidentally take the fast way down the ladder. Obviously, that didn't happen. Yeah. Okay, Ed, can you turn around, go catty corner to the corner opposite on the intersection? Oh God, yeah, okay. What is now this horrible bro hive was once Slugger Ann, a very old school dive bar owned by Ann, who was the grandmother of Jackie Curtis, who lived, you know, across the theater. So Ann had raised Jackie, and Jackie bartended there on occasion. And, you know, along with her fellow Warhol superstar, Candy Darling, but that was in the 60s before I got there, and Candy was apparently a terrible bartender, so she did not last long. But in my time, Anne would sit out on the corner on a folding chair with her yappy little dogs, you know, smoking and like holding court. Oh, and Anne was also the super of the apartments above the bar. And she got the name Slugger because she had been a taxi dancer in the 1940s. Is there anyone who doesn't know what a taxi dancer is? Okay, all right. So when I did this show, like recently, for a lot of very young people, no one knew what a taxi dancer was. So in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, there were ballrooms all over the country, many here in New York City. Some of you might remember Roseland, that was a big ballroom, where, yeah, you could go and a band would be playing and you could partner dance when that was like a popular form of entertainment. And if you were a single guy and you didn't have a partner, you went and you paid 10 cents a dance for a partner to dance with you. And so that was a taxi dancer. You paid them like you paid a cab. And Anne had been a taxi dancer, and making commissions off these 10-cent dances. And every once in a while, one of her clients would get a little fresh with her, and so she would bang, slug them. Get it? So. The Slugger Ann was a trans lady hangout with an incredible jukebox, and I spent many fun afternoons there. I would go with my friends, and we would hope to catch a glimpse of Jackie, tending bar. Instead, we got another show. Businessmen in suits with briefcases, okay, this was the 80s, right, rolling up to the bar to hit on the trans ladies who were plying their trade there. So some magical version of heteronormativity was being performed, but at that time we didn't understand gender and sexual orientation to be performances. I never saw Jackie, tending bar, but I did see her on the street, and give her a little nod. And I used the standard issue binary pronouns of the time. You might notice he, she, because Jackie went by both, depending on what outfit she put on, I guess. And Jackie is immortalized in the Lou Reed song, Walk on the Wild Side. Jackie was just speeding away. Thought she was James Dean for a day. Okay, Ed, can you take us to 330 East 11th Street, please? Okay, who knows what this was? Yeah, okay, that's right. So 330 East 11th Street was the original home of the Wow Cafe. Yeah, from 1982 to 85. WOW, or Women's One World, was an international performance festival that happened downtown in 1980 and 81. And after that second festival, this storefront was rented by a spirited band of feminists and dykes and transformed into a social club for wayward girls. And yeah, and that was back when there were a lot more social clubs, unlicensed, private clubs in the neighborhood. And WOW put on all kinds of wild programming in this space for 3 years until the landlord, started gouging us for rent. And so we left and moved to East 4th Street. WOW was women-owned and operated, or WOO. And since WOW moved out of here, the storefront has been a bunch of other things. I think now it is a hair salon, which is a very typical use of these skinny, long storefronts in the East Village. And okay, there's more on hair to come, so hold that thought. And okay, Ed, can you take us back up to 2nd Avenue and go to number 166, please? Oh, there, we just passed the rubber stamp store. You should all go there. It's amazing, still there. And oh, when WOW was on this block, it was the Italian American Veterans Social Club. And, on nice afternoons, we'd see a bunch of oldsters, like, sitting out on folding chairs, smoking cigars. And there was this kind of like, gruff, old school New York City guys who were like crusty on the outside, but soft and creamy on the inside. And they referred to the WOW women as "use girls." And they had an elderly, like, super sweet Mastiff dog with them all the time. And she had one bum leg, and her name was Peggy. Yeah, get it? Yeah. Okay, oh yes, okay, here we are, 166 2nd Avenue. This was Theater for the New City. Yeah, PNC. Now it's Urban Outfitters. Now, Ed, if you can go the doorway all the way on the right there. Oh yeah, this one. Can you zoom in on that above the door? Okay, so there you can see it was originally built to be a Baptist tabernacle, carved there. Now, New York City is all about change, so even when something is literally written in stone, it doesn't mean that it's written in stone in the forever way, right? But before Theater for the New City, this was also other theaters. It was Tamburlini's Gate, and it was the Cricket, too. Oh, and Ain Gordon, who directed this show you are watching, was in a show at the Cricket as a young man called Mondo Frico. And there is Ain in the black floppy hat and, makeup that looks like he's wearing sunglasses, and he is serving Audrey Hepburn realness. The Ridiculous Theatrical Company also performed at the Gate, and Ed found this poster of their run of Big Hotel there. This was drawn by the incomparable Jack Smith, so that's another ace for your Jeopardy hole. And you'll see in the players listed Regina Hirsch. Okay, who's Regina Hirsch? Anyone know? That's right. That Regina Hirsch was Regina Hirsch before she was Lola Pashalinski. She's sitting over there all the way. Yeah. House right. But it was like after she was Bunny Eisenhower briefly. But Bunny Eisenhower is also listed on here, but that's like a whole other crazy story about names. And I'm going to save that for La Tour de Lola. Okay. Theater for the New City is where I saw the theater company Split Britches for the first time. Yep. That is Deb Margolin and Peggy Shaw and Lois Weaver, and it made me think entirely differently about both gay and theater. The Split Britches taught me so much about performing and showbiz, and well, there were other special lessons too. Like Peggy Shaw taught me how a butch combs her hair, and Lois Weaver taught me how a femme wears a slip, and Deb Margolin taught me, reverence for very silly puns. TNC produced the work of many a queer, including all of the work of Maria Irene Fornés. Hi, Irene. And before it moved to First Avenue. So Theater for the New City was, though not exclusively gay, still is gay, and now is queer too, because we took that word back. Okay, right. Ed, can we continue down Second Avenue to number 140, please? Look, Yummy Hive over there, that's gone. A lot of these businesses are not here anymore. That deli has been there the whole time I've lived here. Veselka, of course, has been there the whole time I've lived there, here in the neighborhood. Okay, there's the Stuyvesant Polyclinic and okay. Oh, yeah, okay. So this appliance-like building has been the National Ukrainian Home since 1952. Yeah. It was a main performance venue for the WOW Festival, Women's One World Festival in 1981, and it has had this grand ballroom, and off to the side there was a bar, a beautiful carved bar and back bar, and it was gorgeous. And now, a devastating arsonist's fire in 1984 resulted in this crime of ballroom design and the filing cabinet-inspired facade of the building. But I wandered in there when I was 20 years old, and it was the second WOW Festival, and it was also the first place I had been in the same room with more than 2 lesbians that I could identify. Terrifying and thrilling. So the producers of the festival had rented a grand piano for the duration, and a long lesbian processing session ensued when it became clear that we could not lock the ballroom up at night and secure the piano. Okay, I was 20 years old, and I said, hey, I'll just go home and get a toothbrush and a blanket, and I'll come back, and I'll sleep under the piano. But, who's going to steal a grand piano? Whatever. It seemed logical at the time, given the very high crime rate in the neighborhood. So as Peggy Shaw, one of the producers of the festival and the Dyke icon, puts it when she tells the story, so Mo slept with a piano before she slept with a woman. That is true. I am not proud of that, but I come from shame times, so it's familiar. But this building started as a pair of fine row houses in 1830, when this part of town was the very fancy part of town. And then about 50 years later, in 1881, the houses were joined together, and it became the German YMCA, when the neighborhood was predominantly German-speaking, and its nickname was Kleine Deutschland, which means Little Germany. It had another life as the Stuyvesant Casino, which was a hangout for Jewish gangsters. Okay, Meyer Lansky, anyone? Yeah. Until it became the Ukrainian home in 1952, and you could rent the ballroom as a venue, and it was a music venue too. And the synth pop British band New Order played their first American show in that ballroom. Yeah. And it was like November of 1981. It was like a month after the WOW Festival. Now, I was not lucky enough to have a ticket to see that show, but it's Ed, it's all on the YouTubes. Can you play a little clip of it for us? Oh yeah, look, there they are. New Order's band members, I don't think those guys are gay, but they are quoted as saying they liked going to gay clubs better because the music was superior, and they cite the disco icon Sylvester as a main influence. So disco and Sylvester will always be gay. Okay, Ed, can you take us down, continue down 2nd Avenue, and take a right at the first corner there onto St. Mark's Place? Oh, look, see? Gem Spa is gone already. Yeah. Oh, that on the right there, that was the only bank in the neighborhood when I first moved into the neighborhood. Please go to number 44. Oh, yeah, there we are. Okay. Does anybody here know what used to be here and used to be gay? This was the St. Mark's Women's Health Collective. Yeah, started by 7 queer women in 1974. It was lesbian, owned and operated, or LOO. And the lesbians who started it believed healthcare should be radically inclusive with no barriers to access to healthcare on the basis of race, gender presentation, class, or ability to pay. And it specifically provided access to healthcare for women who didn't need birth control. Okay, I'm gonna let that sink in for a second. Women who didn't need birth control. Now, I got tired of typical doctor intake questions at the time. Are you sexually active? Yes, I am. Do you use birth control? No, I do not. And then getting a lecture about contraception. The Health Collective was anti-establishment and anti-racist, and as one of the founders, Dr. Barbara Herbert, said, we didn't use the word lesbian in our name because we did not want to exclude anyone who could not afford to be out. And at that time, many couldn't. The clinic moved to 2nd Avenue and 1st Street to the ground floor of another large, dilapidated function building with another grand ballroom called Quando. Now, Quando, like Bad Bunny, was Puerto Rican owned and operated, or PRU. So I had my pap smears at the clinic there. Just beyond those 2 double doors, that's where the clinic room was, and the sounds of 2nd Avenue were going by, and it had been the entrance to the building. So there were tiles on the floor, which I guess was some nod to sanitary conditions, but there was not a sink in that room. I don't know how they handled that, but it was fine. Everything's fine. My pap got smeared, okay? Quando and this building are long gone, and now it is a new residential complex with a shiny TD bank in the ground floor. Okay, next time you're in TD or you walk past one, please remember my cervix. The Women's Health Collective merged in 1983 with the Gay Men's Health Project to become the Community Health Project, and they squatted in what is now the LGBTQ Services Center on West 13th Street, but back then it was just another abandoned New York City public school. It morphed once again and became the Callan Lord Community Health Project. Yeah. Still gay, still gay. Okay, Ed, can you go on down the block of St. Mark's to number 57, please? I'm sure some of you know what this building is. Some of you have probably been here. Some of you probably were there with me. Okay, in the 80s, this was the Holy Cross Polish National Church. You know, back when the neighborhood was more of a small Soviet satellite country. But in the basement there, on the left side of the central staircase, was the wonderland called Club 57. Another club named for its street number. And it was run by Ann Magnuson, who is not a gay, but she is that's right, she's a very talented weirdo, and that is a compliment. But a whole lot of gay went on in Club 57 with, you know, bands playing and artists doing shows. And oh, Wow held some notable benefits there. Rent parties to raise money to, rent the storefront on East 11th Street. And one of them was the exotic underwear party. And Ed, do we have a slide for that? Oh yeah, okay. So I went over to WOW to find this flyer in the archive, and I couldn't even find the archive. So, but I do have another artifact for you. This is the underwear I wore to the exotic underwear party. Okay, I still wear it. It's very warm in the winter time, so. Now the basement where Club 57 is a behavioral health clinic. Okay. Now, I would argue that Club 57 performed the same function in a very different modality, okay? Club 57 closed in 1953, and it has a plaque. Look at that. Okay, Ed, can you carry on down St. Mark's Place on the same side of the street, number 77, please? Okay, the second floor of this building was the home of the poet W.H. Auden and his longtime partner, Chester Kalman, from 1953 to 1972, where they shared a notoriously shabby apartment with bad heat and plumbing. And a plaque on the building commemorating Auden's 20 years on the Lower East Side was stolen in the 1990s, and it has not been replaced. But in the 80s, it caught my eye with an Auden quote. "If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me." And I think Mr. Auden got his wish, as here he is staring adoringly at Chester Kalman, who stares adoringly at the camera. Okay. Since we're on the subject of love, I will ask your indulgence. I would like to drop a personal love pin on this tour. Do I have your consent? Yes. Okay, Ed, take us to number 150 East 7th Street between A and B. It's across the street from Tompkins Square Park. Okay, in 1983, on the second floor, in the back, on the left side of the awning, in an apartment that had been borrowed for the occasion, I had sex with a woman for the first time. Hold your applause, hold your applause. Okay. She was completely inappropriate in ways that were totally acceptable to me in my deranged 20s. Okay. Number one, she lived with her longtime girlfriend. Number two, she had a mysterious cancer she was being treated for. Number three, she was a securities trader at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Now, somehow that all seemed to make sense to me. I don't know. And, you know, I was utterly, helplessly, hopelessly in love. And I think you can see where this is going. She and I flamed out in very painful fashion. And I think she barely noticed. Look, I didn't know what I was doing when I was trying to have sex with a woman. But I also didn't know what I was doing when I had tried to have sex with men, because, you know, talk about sex was not as frank, and there were not the, you know, the bros of YouTube with explainer videos, you know. So girlfriend number one got married to a bio man about 5 years after she had taken up with a guy at work and stopped returning my phone calls. Now, and you know what? I don't know where she is now. I mean, despite like this creepy internet surveillance state that we live in, I don't know. So, girlfriend number one, wherever you are, thanks for letting me kiss you that first time, and thanks for being willing to sleep with a dumbass 22-year-old. Girlfriend number one used to be gay. Now, who knows? Okay, thank you for indulging me in my... a scroll down memory lane, ha. Okay, Ed, can you pop us back up to 2nd Avenue and St. Mark's Place and go to numbers 19 through 25, St. Mark's? Okay, oh yeah, it looks like pandy times, but it's not. It's not pandemic. It's just the sidewalk dining is, you know, still happening, right? Okay, so the buildings we are coming up to were also built in 1833 as another row of posh townhouses, and they were also joined together, and they also became another function hall for the German-speaking community. Then the Germans moved uptown to Yorkville, and you know, that's a tragedy that I'm not even going to get into. And by the 1920s, it had become the Polish National Home. There you are. And below the Polish National Home was a nightclub called the Dome. As you can see there, Dome is the word for home, like it is above there. And it was very popular with a very mixed crowd. So gay, straight, trans, bi, and you know, all the colors of the DEI rainbow. It was a place where unity came through a shared love of shaking your groove thing. In 1970, a bomb exploded on the dance floor, because that's the kind of thing that could happen in 1970, and the club was closed by 1971. But going back a few years, in 1966, the ballroom, which was above the club, was rented by Andy Warhol to present his happenings, the exploding plastic inevitable. And the Velvet Underground and Nico were the house band. Oh my gosh, before my time, but what I wouldn't give to see that show. Then from 1976 to 2000, this building was the home to the Allcraft Center, which was a CETA-funded program. CETA stood for Comprehensive Employment Training Act, okay, which was a Nixon-era program funded by the federal government to train women in non-traditional trades. We could all use a dose of Nixon-era Republicans right about now. Am I right? So at the Allcraft, carpentry, plumbing, electrical, fine cabinetry were taught to women by a bunch of, you know, skilled Amazon tradeswomen. Yeah, and I didn't know if I was going to be a gay, but I'll tell you, seeing those women in their woodworking shop with their high level of skill gave me such a competence crush on them. And I mean, look, Lady Carpenter, come on, be still my heart. Oh, also at the Allcraft, there was a nursery where you could leave your children while you took your training. How about that? And the big old ballroom where Andy had done his happenings was a venue for the WOW Festival. Okay, Ed, can you stay on this side of St. Mark's Place and just pop over a couple of doors to number 15, please? Oh yeah, okay, which one doesn't belong? Yeah. This, in the middle there, recently constructed soulless condo building is where there once stood a humble garage. And in 1965, that garage was transformed into the hair salon of Paul McGregor, inventor of the shag haircut. It happened on St. Mark's, people, okay? Now, Paul was not a gay, but he was something of a player. I mean, look at him. And the movie Shampoo is based on his hairdressing stardom, and Warren Beatty's chest hair figures very prominently in many scenes. But Paul got tired of hair, and so in 1978, he turned his salon into a roller disco. Now, this is a typical narrow East Village storefront. Not ideal for a roller rink where you have to make a lot of turns. So in 1981, he turned it into a bar called McGregor's Garage. But after a couple of years of that, he got tired of the bar brawls. And Paul was not gay, as I said, but he reasoned the gays don't start bar fights. So he turned it into a gay bar called Boy Bar. Yeah. And by the mid-'80s, it was girl bar one night a week. One night because lesbians are cheap, and we couldn't support the bar for more than that by buying drinks. But honestly, I don't know why I say the word cheap, because really women were making 80 cents on the dollar, and we just didn't have as much disposable income. Yeah, okay. I stand corrected by I self-corrected. Okay. So girl bar was Tuesday night, and I went there and kissed girlfriend number 5 for the first time. Okay, at Boy Bar, there were legendary drag shows with like these East Village superstars of the time, like Miss International Crisis, Perfidia, Ethel Eichelberger, Lady Bunny. Oh, and of course, our own queen, Miss RuPaul, who has a cable empire now called Drag Race Universe that is also produced by something called WOW. Insert conspiracy theory there. Okay, Ed, can we turn around now and go across the street and a little bit west to number 6 St. Mark's Place? Okay, this dark building, who knows what that was? That was the St. Mark's Baths. Very good. Now it is Barcade now. It was originally built as Russian and Turkish baths in 1913, but it got gay in the 60s thanks to the sexual revolution and the homosexual freedom fighters. In 1979, the baths was sold again and was renovated and reopened as the new St. Mark's Baths and advertised as... Yeah. It was the largest bathhouse in the world, and it had these creatures in there, I guess. Okay, I never went, obviously, but, and if there was a women's bathhouse, I never knew about it. Did anybody know of a women's bathhouse in New York? Okay, yeah. Huh? So, but there was a women's bathhouse in San Francisco on Valencia Street, Ocento, and I went there many times with my 4 lesbian brothers when we would play that town. More on the brothers to come, yeah. There was also a women's bathhouse in Seattle, the Hot House. And in, typical no fun feminist, whatever, there were signs up all over the bathhouse saying we weren't allowed to have sex there. So, and the hot house is still open, okay? And now it's not women only, it's not public, really, you can rent it out for a party. It's not ADA accessible, and you still can't have sex there. But back to the new St. Mark's Baths, where you could definitely have sex, and that's probably why you went there. Everett Quinton, another female impersonating legend, yes, told me backstage one night at a story at the Ridiculous Theatrical Company, and Everett had gone to the baths one night. It was a Monday. It was his dark night. He didn't have a show, and that was a quiet night. And he got into a hot tub all by himself. He had the place to himself, and he put his head back and closed his eyes. And after a few minutes, he felt someone playing footsie with him, and he opened his eyes to see who was this handsome stranger. And no, there was nobody there. And then Everett looked down, and there was someone drowned at the bottom of the hot tub. Too many quaaludes, Everett said. Yeah. Okay, but on a less grim note, the amazing performer Jeff Weiss chronicled his bathhouse adventures with a serialized late-night one-piano musical called Hot Keys. Now, anybody know why the musical about the bathhouse was called Hot Keys? Okay, when you went to a bathhouse, you rented a locker or a cubicle, and you got a key. You took off your clothes, you wore your little towel or not, and you had your key around your wrist. And when you went into the steam or the sauna, that key got hot. Thus, hot keys. Yeah. In the early 1990s, Hot Keys played at, I remember seeing it at PS 122, and at, the Naked Angels Loft that was over in Chelsea. Now, Ed, didn't you sublet that loft as well for your studio, or?
No, a friend of mine and I, we sublet a loft in the city-owned building on West 51st in Hell's Kitchen.
Oh.
The woman who had it run a jazz club there.
Okay.
So we put recording equipment in the back, demo tapes to try to get a record contract, and rented out the front rooms for parties or rehearsal, whatever.
Okay.
And Naked Angels rehearsed there fairly often.
Okay.
When they weren't rehearsing at a theater down the street. But they never did any performances there, so Hot Keys must have been done. They found a loft to move into, I think in Chelsea.
Yeah.
It must have been done there.
That's where I saw it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that history. Okay, FYI, Ed is not gay. The new St. Mark's Baths closed, or was closed, by the New York City Health Department in 1985, along with all the other bathhouses in the city during AIDS panic. It was owned by Bruce Mailman, so it was gay-owned and operated GOO, and Bruce Mailman also owned the Truck and Warehouse Theater and the Saint. Oh, and more on that right now as we pop over to East 6th Street and 2nd Avenue, the northwest corner. And as we travel through the internet, have a look at this little artifact, and please pass it around.
What is it? Is it chocolate?
Yeah. Yeah, Lola, it's chocolate. No, it's not chocolate. I mean, don't eat it. Okay, all right. Look at all that scaffolding. Can you fix that, Ed? Oh, look, magic. See? Okay. Yeah. So, from 1980 to 1988, this was the Saint. The male only, members only, male members only dance club that was called the Vatican of Disco. It was built in 1926 as the Commodore, and it too had been a Yiddish theater originally. Then it was a movie house, and then, from 1968 to 1971, it was the Fillmore East, and there were rock shows there. Yep. And, undoubtedly, a lot of pre-Stonewall gay happened here because, the theater. But the gay really took off during the Saint, right? And on Saturday night, standing on 2nd Avenue to watch the men line up to get into the club was like a, neighborhood spectator sport. Now, as the Saints' business model changed and I was allowed to go, I would go there with my friend John, who, John had worked for New York Telephone Company at the end of my block at 13th and 2nd. There he is, a handsome lineman for the county. And John and I would dance, and then he would sneak off and go up to the balcony above the planetarium dome that was over the dance floor. And he would just mostly watch what the men were doing up there. But he told me a great story about going to the Saint one night with his boyfriend at the time. And his boyfriend wanted him to wear little tight jogging shorts, and that was very 80s, and a cock ring, which is timeless. So, John put on a metal cock ring and took a lot of drugs and then walked around on the other side of the club so that his boyfriend could watch. And, John got a substantial boner. I mean, who wouldn't? And, that was all fine until it was time for them to leave, and John was trying to get the cock ring off, and he couldn't. So, they go to the bathroom and try the DIY approach with liquid soap. No. They got ice from the bar. Yikes. And they decided they needed, professional help. And so they went to the emergency room at St. Vincent's. Now, St. Vincent's at this time had an odd distinction of being a very, very Catholic hospital with nuns and crucifixes and stuff, but it was also the only hospital that would treat AIDS patients at the beginning of that epidemic. So John was still very, very high, and the staff at the ER didn't quite know what to do with him, so, and this metal ring, so they called the fire department. And so the fire departments show up with something called a jaw saw, and and so it's clamping, jaggedy, and then there's a chainsaw in there, and they use it to cut people out of crumpled vehicles and stuff. So, did I mention that John was still very high and very hard? Okay. So the fire department guys hold him down and spread his legs, and they very carefully touch the jaw saw to the metal cock ring, but it's like metal on metal, so sparks go flying up John's face like this. He starts screaming, okay. So the fire department guys back off, and then they call the gay sensitive firefighters. Okay, who knew? And why didn't they call them in the first place? Okay, so the sensitive ones show up, and they send the insensitive ones away. And with some magical combination of low light and soft talk and lube, and I think some hospital strength Valiums, the cock was freed from its ring. Yeah. John, like you, was so relieved, and he was also really embarrassed. And as he and his boyfriend were walking out, one of the firefighters looked at him and said, "Don't worry about it. Could have happened to any of us." Okay. Moral of the story. Metal cock rings are for display purposes only. Use a rubber one or a leather one in play, okay? The Saints' fabulousness did not stand a chance against AIDS. And being a gay man in the late 90s was not as sex positive and freeing and was potentially lethal. My sweet friend John also did not stand a chance against the virus, and John died in 1992. Bruce Mailman, who owned the Saint and the new St. Mark's Baths, died 2 years later. John, Bruce Mailman, the Saint, the new St. Mark's Baths are about as gay can be. Okay, Ed, can you continue down 2nd Avenue and take a right at East 4th Street and take us to number 79? Where's the matchbook? Is it circulating still? Okay, well, bring it to me at the end whenever, after the show. Okay, oh, that restaurant's gone. That one's gone too. And look, La Mama isn't renovated. Okay, I'm sure some of you know what this is. Yep. But this was the Truck and Warehouse Theater from 1976 to 1991, and also gay owned and operated by Bruce Mailman, who owned the Bathhouse and the Saint. And though not specified as a gay theater per se, like the shows they put on there kind of says it all. And this was a little before Bruce's time of ownership, but in 1970 they presented Steam Bath with Tony Perkins as the lead. Also playing here later in the 70s was The Faggot and Women Behind Bars, starring Divine. And oh, the Ridiculous Theatrical Company played in this theater before they got their own theater space over on Sheridan Square. And they did Der Ring Got Verblunget, starring one Regina Hirsch, who was by that time Lola Paschalinsky, playing Brunhilde, Natch, and there she is making sweet, sweet love to that giant golden tit. So Truck and Warehouse was also the home to the Fourth Wall Repertory Company, which was run by an infamous Upper West Side cult, the Sullivanians. You know, cults are weird and complicated, but I guess the basic sort of, I don't know, their basic, not the tenets, but I'll use that word, were, okay, 1, psychoanalysis, sure. 2, forced polyamory. Okay, that's a classic, right? And 3, theater. You know, what could go wrong? Okay, so here's a little blurb I found about the Fourth Wall Repertory Company from a cult-chasing website. The Fourth Wall Repertory Company, worth an estimated $12 million in 1989, was the site of politically charged plays. Okay, that means bad theater. Put on by members of the Sullivan Institute for Research in Psychoanalysis. Cult members who had day jobs were often required to report immediately to the theater after their shifts in order to work or rehearse. By that definition, I am in a theater cult. In 1992, the Sullivanians were drowning in legal troubles, and they disbanded, and they sold the theater for an estimated 1/10 of its value to New York Theater Workshop. And yeah, and I have tread the boards at New York Theater Workshop a few times with my theatrical family, the 5 Lesbian Brothers. Yep. And here we are in 1996 doing The Secretaries. The brothers are Babs Davy, Dominique DeBelle, Peg Healy, Lisa Crone, and yours truly. And we're very, grateful to have had 4 of our shows done at New York Theater Workshop. Now, Ain has also graced the stage at NYTW in the same season as the brothers with his theatrical family in the show The Family Business. Now, Ain is related to his theatrical family in a more conventional sense. His mother, Valda, and his father, David Gordon. And yeah, their memories are always blessings. So, Ed, can you turn around and cross the street to number 82 East 4th Street? Okay. This shabby doorway, anybody know what it was? Club 82, that's right. This was Club 82 from 1950 to 1973, another venue in another basement, named for its street number and the word club. And, but originally it was the Rainbow Inn in 1929 when it was built, and it was a speakeasy. And it got a lot of attention from the police, and there were many, many raids here. But as Club 82, it produced drag shows that were lavish and had huge casts, and they ran for a year at a time, playing 3 shows a night. And it was run by the same woman, Anna Genovese, who ran the drag club underneath the Yiddish Theater on 2nd Avenue. And so it was also mafia owned and operated, or MOO. And you fans of organized crime might be wondering about the name Genovese. And yes, she married into the crime family. And her first husband, Vito, actually started Club 82. But then Vito had to go to Italy to flee murder charges for killing Anna's first husband. Okay, these people did not mess around. But Anna kept the club going while Vito was away, and there's a lot of evidence that she had special relations with some of her Butch Dyke waitstaff. Here's Anna with the waitstaff, and circled in pink there is Duke, who was one of her special friends. And oh yes, another waiter, Tommy, who was also the bouncer. There's Tommy. Anybody remember Tommy? Yeah? Amazing. Please speak to me afterwards. I want to hear. So Tommy went on to a cabaret career in the cabaret club that took over after Anna closed Club 82. And Lola Pashalinski remembers going to hear Tommy sing, and she sang a song, a Drifter song, I Need It. In the bright moonlight, I need it. When you hold me tight, I need it. In the middle of the night, I need your honey love. So, Tommy, is that right, Lola? Yep, okay. Tommy stayed in the neighborhood and ran the elevator in the La Mama rehearsal building at 47 Great Jones. Remember, that was Tommy later. And, you know, Tommy was still kind of very gruff, you know, and like, so basically still in bouncer mode. So Club 82 closed in 1973, as I said, but it had other turns. It had been a cabaret, and it had been a disco, and it was a strip club, and it was a music venue. And then in 1982, it became the Bijou, which was a porn theater, gay porn theater with cubicles for sex. And that thing had a very solid run. And it just closed in like 2019, which is amazing. So it miraculously survived the entire AIDS crisis. And speaking of crisis, Miss International Crisis played her cabaret act there when it had been a cabaret. And I never saw Crisis at Club 82, but I did see her at Boy Bar. And, you know, her voice and her beauty will live in me forever. Sorry to ping pong around East 4th Street, but there's a lot of gay on this block. So, Ed, can you please go to number 59 through 61 East 4th Street? Okay, who knows what that is? That's right. So, this has been home to the Wow Cafe since it moved to the 4th floor of this building in 1985 after we left the place on East 11th Street, and it remains the oldest collectively run performance venue for women and or trans people in the known universe. That's right. So, if you are a woman, or you are trans, or you are non-binary, or you would like to be, please, if you have an itch to do a show, speak to me afterwards, and I can give you some information about that. So when WOW moved to this space, it had been a sweatshop that produced stuffies, okay? So all around the space, there were the cast-offs from the company, and there were bags of like plastic noses and googly eyes to make like stuffed animals and novelties. And WOW is still collectively run and still operates on a sweat equity principle, meaning no one is paid directly, so that was my first theater cult. And there's no artistic director at WOW, so the work that goes on there is determined by the people who show up and work on the shows of others and eventually given a show of their own. And from 1985, when WOW moved there, to the late 90s, I did many shows there, and it taught me more about performing and showbiz than anything at my theater school could teach me. It was kind of like a classic apprenticeship, right? So, I was a spear carrier, and then I got bigger roles and then smaller roles again. But I also learned how to do many of the things off stage that you need to do to make theater and to run a theater. So my day job, scenic painting, I started there at WOW, and also, as I mentioned earlier, I was a theatrical electrician for a number of years too. And WOW was the cradle of the 5 lesbian brothers, and that's where we met. And decided to start a theater company. And, we didn't know anything about writing plays, okay? But we did know about being lesbians. And, lesbian theater, that genre, was very, very underrepresented in that day. So, WOW still is, used to be, still is very gay, and in fact, helped make me gay. Thank you, WOW! Okay, Ed, can we go over, please, to 8th and Broadway? Okay, so here we are at another nondescript MTA subway entrance, one of the 272 holes in the ground that us New Yorkers ride on every day. But do not be fooled. In the 60s, 70s, early 80s, the men's rooms in this subway station were well-known spots for cruising and gay sex, according to my friend Emmett, who lived with the deaf folks back over in the theater, above the theater, and Emmett had many stories about blowjobs that ended by walking out of the washroom and directly onto an oncoming R train. So, to sexually intrepid gay men of this era, these bathrooms, the whole subway bathroom system offered a unique public transportation experience of, getting off and getting on. Okay, Ed, can we go across 8th Street now, please, and go to number 25, 3rd Avenue? Okay, oh yeah. Look, Wegmans wasn't there yet. What year is this? This is 2024. Okay. Cooper Union still there? Okay. This building here on the corner, the first few years I lived in the East Village, this was the home to Frida's Disco. Anybody remember Frida's? No, okay. Now, I hear you thinking, Mo, are you trying to tell us that there was a gay disco where the new Sephora store is going to be? Yes, but not in this building. So here's a little snippet I found on a music blog about describing the amazing bouncer at Frida's, who was always sitting on a high stool in the doorway when you would walk by. Frida's was a scary-looking dive. And in the doorway, there was always a scary-looking drag queen with a head-to-toe 5 o'clock shadow and an askew blonde wig. If you got too close, she would yell out, "Hey, honey, why don't you come over here and let me suck your cock? It's only $5. As I had no cock to suck, it was home in the drawer. I never got offered the $5 neighborhood special. Okay, Ed, can you give me the same address in 2019? Yeah. Okay, when I did this tour as a walking tour where actual walking was required, this is what this corner looked like. And is this 2019? No, this is 2009. Huh?
To your right.
Oh, to my right, sorry. Yeah, it looked like this. So the buildings were being prepped to be torn down, and then in 2021, Ed, they were gone, and the new building that rose at the crossroads where St. Mark's Place turns into 8th Street and the Bowery becomes 3rd Avenue, and they all get a lot more respectable, it's empty. And it has been empty since shortly after this photograph was taken and the building was completed. But about a month ago, vinyl signage went up in the ground floor, right, that advertised the new Sephora store that is the anchor retail there, and those signs were tagged immediately because I guess my neighbors have feelings about beauty products. Oh no, my neighbors, I correct myself again, my neighbors who have feelings about beauty products and express those with spray paint. But either Sephora or the building tore off the tagged vinyl, and they put up new vinyl, and they also erected this barricade of chain link fence to keep the taggers out. Okay, we'll see how that goes. Okay, Ed, can we head south on the Bowery, please? So I invite you to think back to a time when the Bowery had a lot of indigent men and women and trans people, sometimes even families with kids, who lived in the flop houses that lined the street in plywood cubicles that passed for rooms. So Bowery bums was the pejorative name for them, and they were to be found all along the street there in between the gas stations and flop houses and missions and bars that, for what we now call unhoused persons. Okay, so that was the Bowery I knew when I came to New York. Now there are no more flop houses or signs of this street's past. Well, here you can see a little sign, perfect furniture and lighting. Above it says Grand Hotel. So at one time that had been a Grand Hotel. And the Bowery has been transformed into a corridor of luxury retail and very, very expensive hotels. And Bowery has had a luxury rebrand as a word. Ed, can you show us one, impossible hairpin turn that the name Bowery has taken? Yeah. In the newly renovated Terminal C at LaGuardia, there is this mall crammed with luxury items. You can buy a $2,500 Kate Spade handbag, but you cannot get a bagel with a schmear. Okay, that's a shonda if you ask me. But back in history, beginning in the 1850s, the Bowery was the central entertainment artery of New York City, and by the late 1800s, it was lined with saloons, dance halls, theaters, and resorts, which was a way of saying a club or a bar, right? Ed, can you take us back up to 392 Bowery, please? Okay, so this is now, its modern address is 32 Cooper Square, but in the 1890s there was a different building there, but it was home to Columbia Hall, or another name for it, Paresis Hall, and the Palm Club. And these were very popular ferry resorts, which they did not advertise with rainbow flags or go-go girls on the bar or hanky codes. They were known to be places for inverts, okay? Specifically ferries, which at that time meant very effeminate men. The name Paresis is pejorative, and it comes from a term at the time which meant mental illness, and because it was popularly believed that if you had same-sex sex, you would lose your marbles. Now, turns out people did lose their marbles from all kinds of sex, but it was probably from untreated syphilis. The hall, as it was more affectionately called, was a place where men could go and pick up other men in the bar and beer garden on the ground floor, and then they could go upstairs to one of the 10 rented rooms to carry out their sweaty dalliances in the right swipe moments of the 1890s. Now, it's a little hard to explain the sexual dance of masculinity as it played out at this time, but by my understanding, if you were a butch working class guy, like you were a stevedore or a sailor, it would be completely acceptable for you to take sexual advances from a femme fairy, okay? As long as you held fast to your butch mask role, it wasn't queer, which was a word that was reserved entirely for men who had feelings that went along with the, oil change utility approach to male homosexual desire. Or as Walt Whitman called it, male adhesiveness. So engaging in fairy sex was just sex. It wasn't love, so therefore it was normal. Also housed in another floor above the hall was Le Cercle Hermaphroditis, which is one of the first known organizations for these men who like to dress in feminine attire. The trans scholar, Dr. Susan Stryker, cites the Cercle as the first trans organization in the United States. Well, dressing as a gender other than the one that was apparent was illegal in the 1890s, so the fairies would gather upstairs at the Cercle and then change into their evening wear and descend to the bar to ply their trade, just like the ladies over at Slugger Ann's on 2nd Avenue. Owned by a dapper gangster from the notorious 5 Points, the hall was gangster owned and operated, or gang-goo. So there were many of these fairy resorts below 14th Street, and they included the Slide, the Little Jumbo, Eagle Hall, the Burnt Rag 2, Windsor Hall, Excise Exchange, the Black Rabbit, and I kid you not, over on Hester Street, McGlory's Armory Hole. No. Hall, Armory Hall, not Hole. Well, Hole and Hall, why not? We can have nice things, right? Okay, there's so much hidden gay all over the city, and because of past discrimination and the closet, the twilight world of the homosexual was hidden from the public view by design. There are many back doors and underground grottos and unmarked doorways yet to be explored. But okay, I have to stop somewhere. So Ed, can you go to 161A Christie Street and take us to where we are right now? Okay, Christie Street has changed much over the years. Across on the other side from where you entered the theater used to be tenements and stores too. And in 1929, the city bought all that land and tore down all the buildings to build low-income, sturdy housing. But Mr. Robert Moses, the power broker and urban planner, had other ideas, and so he turned it into Sarah D. Roosevelt Park. Now, Christie Street does not have any even numbers, because those would have been over there. So thank you, Mr. Moses, for leaving only the odd numbers and queering Christie Street. So this is the building that stood here. This is from the mid-40s, and you can see in the close-up over there, the ground floor had the M&W upholsterers, and the right side, you might not be able to read it from where you are, but it was A. Gagliano, and it was an Italian grocery. Now, sometime between this picture and now, this building was built, but it's unclear. It's very, very murky in the city record. But I do know that Dixon Place moved here in 2009 and has been cranking out the gay ever since, right? Yeah. But Dixon Place was begun by Elle Covan in her tiny apartment on East First Street. It was another First Street. It was another classic East Village storefront. Dixon Place was in the front, and Elle lived in the back. And one of the first times I performed there was with my lesbian brother, Peg Healy, but it was before we were the brothers. And Peg had written a movie script called Two Women and a Baby. And yeah, we shot it at her sister Patty's apartment in Astoria. And, it was a madcap tale of a couple of dykes who wanted to get pregnant on their own. And, that was a lot harder to do back then. And I don't know, I looked for the script. I could not find it. But I do remember there were several, wacky scenes that involved a turkey baster. And, Peg and I, we didn't know anything about sperm, so we had to get Peg's straight sister, Patty, to make us some stage sperm, and she did it with cream of wheat, okay? It's effective. It's very effective, again, for your Jeopardy hole, if it comes up. So at Dixon Place, Peg and I showed the movie, and then I pretended I was a talk show host, and I interviewed Peg, who was pretending that she was a film critic, and she was analyzing the movie, and she had, leather patches on her elbows, and she smoked a pipe, and, it was hilarious. Okay, Dixon Place has always been gay, and I'm going to say gay classic, okay, which to me means that gay is a copious term, and anyone who wants to come under the rainbow umbrella can join us, okay? And I know, not everyone here is gay. That's okay. God made you that way. But, stick around. Dixon Place might make you just a little bit more gay. Dixon Place has consistently made space for work that grapples with outsider status, with love and loss, with trans and queer embodiment, as we say now, and with how performance makes and remakes community. The tradition is best described by the brilliant scholar Jose Munoz, using performance to imagine otherwise, to gesture towards futures which do not yet exist. Miss ya, Jose. I am very, very fortunate to have lived most of my adult life downtown, where spaces for weirdos and the weird futures we imagine have thrived. I know it is a terrible time we are in right now, but it used to be worse, and simultaneously it also used to be gay. Now it will get better and it will get gayer again. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I did not expect to see the things and the changes that have happened in my lifetime. Places come and go, and the gay can never quite be fully erased. Let it haunt us with glitter in beards and wristwatches turned to the inside and collars popped and pinky rings and pride rings and cock rings and a cock horse to ride, and we shall have music wherever we go. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. You're a lovely audience. I just want to thank Elise and Ain and Ed and Linda from Pickup Performance Company. They're amazing. Alyssa and Rob and Elle and all the folks here at Dixon Place. And did I say Linda? Did I say you, Linda? Okay, Linda. I'm thanking Linda again because I forgot to thank her the first night, so I'm like over thanking her. But there's never too much thanks for Linda. Please, we're going to have a little talk back. In about 15 minutes, so please go up to the bar, grab yourself a drink, come on back down. You can bring your drinks down here. And yeah, we're going to talk about what you just saw. Okay, thank you so much.
At one point I forgot that I was filming, and I was like, oh right, I need to like move the camera. I was like, why
I
is
didn't
it?
know what you were watching, and I figured you were watching that. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Nice to see you.
Likewise, I'm glad you were here.
I'll see you around.
See ya.
Did Timmy bang into it?
You're next to Shabby. Here's your apartment. Oh, bigger than mine. But my bedroom my kitchen and bathroom much bigger. Oh, and the floor is short. Your bathroom is amazing. Yeah, there's more room than this for that. But it was really fun. Then I have a larger closet. My closet is about 6 by 4. And it's a big, closet in the bedroom. It used to be my bathroom. So when you did you? Yeah, so there's that. But there's a bathroom in the hall down below. I came in the back and took that bathroom out of my closet. Good for you. Very nice. I mean, that was enough for everybody, but I think it's a big thing. There was a big it's interesting how much beer people use this. If I can beer, the gay guys who are what the lesbians Bill. Bill.
Yes. Great. We're live.
All right, we're going to get started here since we've been sitting in this wonderful theater with this wonderful piece for, yes, for 90 minutes. If you have drinks and you're out there, please come in, and we're going to get started here. So, yeah, if the mic, someone is running with the mic.
No,
yes, is yours?
Now it is. Now,
on,
thank you. Thanks.
On. We're also live streaming on HowlRound.
Oh yeah.
This thing. So if you wanna watch this again, yes, Mo and Ain have graciously allowed this to be archived, so it will live online to check it out again, as well as this conversation. My name is Ken Trenelia. I'm a co-founder of the American Theater Archive Project, and I've been a fan of the LGBTQ+ Artists Archive Project, and helping them along for a little bit of this journey. And that project is dedicated to helping interdisciplinary performing artists, like these wonderful humans here, start to archive their records of process and product to be like, how did you make this? To preserve a theatrical legacy and cultural history, which is very much part of this piece that you've built together. So I'd like to just first ask you, like, where did this piece in particular start, and how is it just connected to you both as people who've lived here but also performed here as live performing artists? And what does it mean to you right now, tonight, to get to here?
Okay, so this was originally a walking tour where you had to walk, and that was for Lower East Side History Month in 2019. And queer art, so I've been a mentor in queer art mentorship a number of times, and queer art used to be in the building above Veselka. That was their office, and they called me up and they said, oh, you live in the neighborhood, do you want to do something for Lower East Side History Month? And I joked, oh yeah, I've always wanted to do a tour, this used to be gay. And they were like, that's a great idea. So I did a walking tour and dragged people around the neighborhood for a couple of hours. And then pandemic. Nobody was walking anywhere. But I thought, oh, you know what? I could do this on Zoom with Street View. Like just cursor, 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 you know, go along. And that, it never happened on Zoom, but the idea of using Street View stuck. And I did it myself here at Dixon Place, actually, just with my laptop, which I don't recommend that, because Street View is kind of unstable, you know, and so suddenly it like would shoot me back to KFC, and I was like, oh my God, you know, like there's these weird quirks in how the algorithm is put together, but those can also be really interesting. So that got me to a kind of, you know, sit-down walking tour version. And then Elise from Pickup asked me if I wanted to, you know, carry on further with it. And I was like, sure. And then Ain came into the picture.
Right, yes, okay. So we are nearly the same age. I grew up in New York. I'm born and bred. I'm third generation, and fourth actually. And we have known each other we've parallel played for many years, but not actually worked together or actually even socialized, which we've now done a great deal of.
Yes.
And Elise sort of had this idea, and a lot of my work is around questions of how history is a kind of ruthless editing machine, and how I'm particularly interested in communities or peoples that needed to fly undercover in order to thrive, and therefore don't leave behind the kind of documents and artifacts that history likes in order to historicize. So they're kind of doubly invisibilized. And so this project was the kind of a natural to me. And also, I didn't have to write it. That sounded good to me. Like I get to just kind of drop in.
Whoa.
Shape, you okay?
Okay.
All okay?
All good? Okay.
So I kind of, I dropped in to help shape and to figure out what it would look like and what it would sound like, and also what were the arc, because when it was still a walking tour, it had its own respites built in, but as a theater event, it had actually just a constant hum and no that, and so to try to figure out how that could happen. And also Mo is at her best when she is free, so how to provide a firm enough compartment for her to be free in.
I want to just add that. Here, give her the mic. So this is Elise, everyone, from Pickup.
Hi.
It's our producer.
Okay.
And Ain is my partner in crime. We run the pickup company. Anyway, I wanted to say it was a little more organic in that Mo mentioned to me that she'd done this thing, and I just thought about it, and I went to my partner Linda Chapman, and we run the LGBTQ Artists Archive project together, and we germinated it amongst ourselves before we came back to you. And
Of course.
and I just wanted to, it wasn't just like boom, and then we did the workshop last year, and I said, well, if I can find this little bit of NISCA money, then maybe we can do this.
Mhm.
And we did, and we got it, and here we are.
Here
So
we are.
that, I just wanted to,
Yeah, that's good for the, you know, the pathway that,
Yes, and what's fascinating about this project is all of these things come together, right? Some passion that you had of living in this, being a migrant to this neighborhood
Yeah.
some time ago, and then making it your home,
Mhm.
caring about its history, seeing edifices come and go and change over time. And then what Ain said too about your passion, about championing stories that maybe include a little bit of disappearing act for some protection reason or other reason, clandestine reason,
Yep.
free to be me reason. And you know, that's part of the archive of any kind of performing art, which is inherently ephemeral. Is it like, how do we capture that, right? What we experience tonight in this room, all here together, it can't be captured. We're doing it a little bit, you know, with
Yeah.
recording. We're doing it with our stories. We'll preserve some records of that, but that special thing will be gone. And so, and then what you did in performance here is actually activate, re-embody that disappearing act, which I think is like inherently exciting for all of us who spend time in the archive and try to keep things alive or figure out what was there, and reinvigorate it. And I think also too for gay people, for queer people, that, you know, it's one part of this identity that you're born into that very rarely do you get brought up in the family that you're born into. You have to find it. And how can you find it but by telling stories and then finding the other people and finding where that was and where is my history. It's always something that you're just, it's hard to take for granted because you have to go out and find it yourself. So I think this part of it is like really, really cool. I'm working on a project called Small Town Boy, a new wave musical. So it's set in 1983 in New York City, and Boy Bar features prominently in it.
Oh!
And I was just in London for 2 weeks trying to explain to like this new generation of like Gen Z, like British people, you know, what was there. Now, you know, London has its own similar story, but you know, what was it like to be here? And I was like, now we have documented this. So when we go back in the workshop, I'm like, watch this first, and then, you know, you can see. But what it was, you know, what it's like at any time to be like, to be there, to be young, to come alive, to sleep with a piano before you sleep with a woman, to, you know, to just be that thing which people can identify with, but then to like, oh, what are the things in your life that are there and then disappear? Where do you have to be, you know, careful? Where do you find community? Where can it be reborn? And you tell this story, both of you, with such joy, I think, you know, amid a lot of dark stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of scary things, but then to go back in time, to go forward in time, but to just be like, in a place like New York City or, you know, any big city in the world, which is like living and pulsating all the time, where is the archive? Where are those stories? Where is that basement? Where is that photo? Where is that thing? And in our family, we take like lots of walking tours as well, but to do it in the theater is like super fun. Are there any of the stories that we did not see today that you particularly love?
Well,
Yes, there are things were cut.
yeah, there's the
What got cut?
cutting room floor.
Actually, I don't feel that anything got cut. So in the original version of the script, we'll see now, maybe we'll have an argument now.
No.
In the
That was
original
my point.
drafts of the script, there were many less personal stories and many more documentation of sight. And in rehearsal, because we are the same age and because we went to many of the same places, there were little stories would kind of spill out, and then I would say, well, you have to tell that story. The piano, that was not in.
No.
The boyfriend, the guy at the Saint, that was not in. Those things all came out, and then I would say, well, you have to tell that. And then that became a guiding principle. How many stories at a time would we go before we'd get to a story that would be faceted by her personal experience? And so some stories went away that had no facet. That were only what I felt was publicly held and could be Googleable if you
Sure.
wanted to.
True. Yes.
I made
Yeah.
that term up.
Yeah, and I guess for me it was like I don't know, one person shows or, they can really go wrong. And I was hesitant to put my own stuff in there too much because I thought, well, I mean, is this really interesting? I don't know, But you encouraged me, and Linda encouraged me, and I'm living with it. I'm living with with it, and yeah. So what got cut though? They're all interesting stories about like Lillian Wald and Henry Street Settlement. Where she had like a lesbian sleeper cell of nurses there, helping immigrants. Yeah, it got cut. It got cut. Well,
That was one of the very last, and
Yeah,
it was not a happy cut.
It is. It's but what is moving us forward? What is moving us forward? So, and it's just really it is an honor to tell these stories, especially about people who are no longer with us, and that the trauma of the AIDS crisis for all of us that remain, we carry that, but it's kind of like it's starting to get talked about more. The emotional, like what we were doing, like running around and having day jobs and going to the hospital and taking care of our, gay boyfriends, and it was a lot, and but those people, those men, who I miss, yeah. And Taffy, of course, I miss Taffy.
That got added in here.
Yeah. Well, because we were working with that image of my building, which is from 2011 or so. Ed, do you know the image?
It's actually not a street view image. We lied
Oh.
to you.
Oh, okay. But where did it come from?
It came from a real estate.
Okay. All right.
So it has no date on it.
I see. Well, Taffy was alive, and Taffy is not alive. And, we were looking at that picture, and I was like, oh, my God, that's Taffy sitting in the window. And so then I went home, and Taffy is on my dresser. And I was like, oh, Taffy, you want to be in the show?
That's actually Taffy.
But then she brought it in.
I thought it was just a prop.
No.
No,
Here,
the cat is actually here.
Let's pass
Okay.
Taffy around. Everyone, please have a look at Taffy. It says right on here, beloved Taffy. There she is. Here. If
Taffy
you're
is
grossed
being
out,
passed
don't.
around
If
like
it's
a
too
matchbook.
much, if it's too intense, it's fine. Yeah, I had to take her to the Bronx to be cremated. Anyway, so.
Besides the memorial of people who are no longer with us, we have a lot of people with us in the audience tonight, which was really fun.
It was wonderful.
Too. It was like
Yeah.
a living, reactivation of history by virtue of the people who came tonight. And so I wonder just about, as part of what Ain was saying, to try to find your points of intersection, because we're here watching you tell the story, right? Where are the parts where you're feeling where did you have discovery as you were initially doing this walking tour for the benefit of anyone who's taking the walking tour with you? But then it's also about your story and reconstructing your history and how you get to this present moment and what is still gay and what is not gay anymore or what is gay now.
Yeah. All that's changed so much. That's a big change in my lifetime, those terms even, which are still, in flux, right? But I think, so Ain and I have friends in common, and it's oh, were you at that club? Yeah, I was a busboy at that club, right? So there was we're still discovering those things, and performing the stories is it's a trip, and it has, it's made me think back a lot about those times, and but we, people were dying, undeniably, it was terrible, and also we still had fun, too. So that is the lesson for now, don't give up the fun, people, live your life, and that's always a good message, I guess. What do you think, Ain, about reconstructing our stories? Yeah.
It's a performance. So at some level, it also has to work as a performance. So it has to be true to the stories, it has to be something she's willing to tell, and it has to be something worth hearing. And that's a triptych of like a balancing act. And there were little moments like, this maybe is my own personal taste issues, but like we don't put the archival slides on the big screen because I've seen too many solo shows where I show archival slides and tell you things about them. So there were also like, what are the traps of solo showness? And in truth, it isn't. It's a one-person show with two people.
Yeah.
It is a duet with one person. And that was also very purposeful, to like disrupt solo showness. So there were a lot of things. Are we telling the truth? Are we telling the truth she's willing to tell? Is it worth hearing? Is it entertaining? You know, it's a balancing act all the way through.
At what point during that, solo show that was a duet, did you also realize it was like a trio? Because you very much included the audience, it seemed, by design.
Yes, but we can't know that till the audience comes. I would sit here and we do little runs of the lines before the show, and I sit here and pretend to be them. And I go things like, no, I didn't think I'm trying to disrupt her.
Yeah.
Just for her to have to respond to me.
Sure, like debate prep, just like, getting ready for the audience.
Then I try to be outrageous and actually disrupt and like screw her up and
Yes,
see if she can handle it.
No, that was amazing. And I felt like, in terms of excavating history of, gayness below 14th Street, I also felt it was about how to make work in many different ways. That how you found, your tribe of fellow artists in very small spaces. You said, like, here's where you learned how to make the work, and then, brought Ain into it, who like was born into a family who also made work and then found other work, and like all of these stories of, and then going back in history for people you didn't even know, to be like, what was this performance that was both just being, where it was like, you were going into some fourth floor to just put on clothes you felt comfortable wearing to like come to a party, or go to like the baths, or go into something more, intentionally performative and performance spaces. All of those things, I felt like so many stories were in here about like who you were, but also performing that in some way, in various ways, below 14th Street. And it's also the story of that. And over a very long time, a century, I think, from the earliest things you pulled up, which for me felt amazing. And so, part of any performance archive project is like, what's getting erased from our history that we need to pass on, and how do we do it? In this show, you're doing it through performance, through like reactivating the archive and performance. But what are those things that we need to save? Like, what did you look for in the archive that no longer exists, that you couldn't find anymore? You're like, ugh, that thing is gone, right? And what are the things what are those records that we're producing now and the work that we make? They were like, actually, we can save this, and this is how we're going to do it.
Well, like a good example of that is Frida's Disco, which it is very hard to find any documentation of it. That was like a really crappy intersection at that time, and it wasn't photographed, and it was a dive, So Slugger Ann, there's an exterior photo at least, but Frida's is gone,
And also, you asked every night, and only one night, one person was like, yeah, Frida's, but no one else.
Yeah.
Slugger Ann, people remember.
Yes, people remember Slugger Ann.
Nods of memory. No one person out of 3 shows. And I'm not sure I believe them. So,
Yeah. Or women. The Continental, and you can go through
5 shots for $12.
But you go but go through the Street View years on that address, and it's 5 shots for $10, 5 shots for $12, it changes over the time, like how much the 5 shots cost.
I have a question about
Okay.
that pertains to exactly this. Do you mind?
Go for it.
Yeah.
Question from the audience.
I feel like there's something so incredible. The liveness of this performance is obviously integral to what you're doing. but also I kept feeling like you were doing something to Google Street Maps,
Yeah.
like Chashama did to like abandoned storefronts around town. Like you're activating the Google
Yeah.
map into this new performance space, and you're like layering, like peeling back the layers of time. Could you imagine a version of this show that lives in that space that people could access from anywhere, even if y'all are not there?
Let me just repeat that
Yes,
for folks
do.
at home. So question about like the performance of using Google Street Maps and Google View and peeling back layers of time. And is there any way to capture that in this show, without Amazing Ed there, to be like, how do we do that to show that, to capture that?
But I think also
Yes.
actually asking, is there a way to insert the show into Google Street Maps?
I mean, yeah. Can we do that?
And there is, actually, because you can get in Street View in a virtual reality experience. So you can go, wear a set of goggles and go in there and navigate. So it could be somehow presented in there, I believe. Now, you can't, there's technical issues with like how many people can do it at the same time, but I just started playing around with that today, like and asking how to make it, so that people could do it from other places, But yeah.
Is there a part 2 coming?
Is there a part 2?
Yes.
It's a series.
Yeah, that's a serious question. Is there a part 2? Where you like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So I guess in my ideal world, I would do this show elsewhere, not in New York City. And I have done this, like I did it in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at U of M. And I did part of I did some of the, the greatest hits of New York. But then I added local. Like, because there's hidden gay everywhere. So that's like a gold mine, like you don't have to look to, and Ann Arbor really has a lot. So I can do that. And so there's sort of iterations, in locating them in different places so that the people who are in the audience, you want more New York? Okay, mister.
We love the ferry resorts, and we only just touched them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a part 2.
We could spend an hour on ferry resorts.
On the ferry resorts, yeah.
That's a question? Okay, Lola has a question for Mo and Ain. Go. Yes, your question.
Well, the question is, with all due respect, that I felt there was a lack of attention to female lesbian bars that, had disappeared. And a lot of them did disappear because of the whatever administration was in office, from the mayor, or it always came from the mayor. And
Nothing.
We're just on.
Yeah, no, we're in agreement.
I haven't really heard everything that was spoken before because my hearing aids decided to die. I don't know what.
Maybe I can help.
Yeah.
Back on.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, so question about female lesbian bars,
Yep.
and could that be, one of the next parts of the series of the show that you're doing?
Yeah.
And there, Pussy Galore, right? Is a big one from the time. Is that right?
Pussy Galore. I don't know. Do anybody remember that bar? No, I mean, I remember
It is,
the
from,
character.
It's from
Pussy.
1983. It's in my play, yes. Yeah. Okay, yes? No? No, West Village.
Yeah, and we can say that we did not totally intentionally, but it started to happen, and so we followed it. We went down the East Spine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those bars are primarily on the west side.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we noted it, and it's noted.
Yeah.
And so, yes.
Yeah.
Checkerboard on McDougal.
Yeah, so we're talking going
Sea
to the
Colony.
West Village.
Yeah,
so
it's
like
West
a whole
Village.
other neighborhood story.
Yeah. And
Google and Bleecker.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Sure.
That was on 7th Avenue, next to the Circle Rec.
Yes.
Yep.
I remember that.
The Duchess.
The Duchess. The Duchess. It's a Haagen-Dazs store now.
Yes.
Same thing.
It does feel like there's
Very nice job.
there's a couple of ideas here, which are like subsequent chapters
Sure,
of this.
sure.
It seems like there's some. You said something about like hidden gay everywhere.
Yeah.
That it could be like your series, but then you can also put together like this how-to kit for a hidden gay everywhere that
Sure.
then people could do. You'd be like,
Sure.
here's how to find it. Here's how you do the show. And like, here's how to attach things maybe to like
Yep.
Google Street View to be like reveal the hidden gay everywhere. You just click on like on like the gay icon
Yeah.
and then it just like pops up. Like
Sure.
what was there before
Click
the
on
hidden gay?
rainbow flag. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, also too, like Street View has a lot of like weird quirks, and so as we're sailing down the avenue, these icons pop up for businesses, right? And if you touch that fucking thing, it takes you inside the building, and it's like a 360-degree panorama view, and you can't get out. So we poor Ed really suffered by, like having to navigate around those things. But the platform is not made for this, right? And we're sort of, using it in huh? Take it back, exactly. And so and another thing just about the dyke bars is that this is something that Ain said beautifully, but it's true. Like sometimes an absence of evidence means you were there, right? Because of the closet and people hating on themselves and destroying everything after somebody dies, so we ran into that too. So there is, it's like Anonymous was a woman, that kind of thing that like the dyke bars and the women's spaces are not as well documented also. That's just part of it, part of the sad truth. But I think recuperating that stuff is a very good project for This Used to Be Gay. So they did exist.
The thing I said that we used all the time, we kept saying, like, if you can't find us, it means we were there.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, in terms of anyone who thinks about archive, it's mostly static things, right? That you go find in a box and someone told you it was there, then you follow your own imagination. What I find so exciting about This Used to Be Gay, or Hidden Gay Everywhere project is that you get to tell the stories of your personal relationships to those places, to those things, so that those gays who come after you could be like, that mattered, and this is why it mattered. That place, that thing, what people did there, and telling those stories with the technology, with those photographs, with the ashes, with the matchbooks. That's what helps people care and invest in preserving this history, I find, at least for me, and telling these stories together. Are there any other questions from the audience? Yeah, we can take a couple more. Yes. Well, go for it, Linda.
Insider question.
Yes, insider plant. It's a plant. Yeah.
Just remind us, Ain, Mo, Ken, what the LGBTQ plus archive project is and who's involved in it.
Tell us about your involvement in this project,
Okay.
Ain and Mo.
So the LGBTQ plus archive artist project is a 11, this is the worst, I'm terrible at names. It's an 11 artist archive project. The artists are the 5 lesbian brothers, that's 5. Ishmael Houston Jones, Richard Move, Carmelita Tropicana, myself,
John Kelly,
and of course, the founder of us all, Lola Pashlinsky. You.
It's chocolate.
Just nod
Lola,
and say
it's
you're happy.
chocolate, Lola. It's chocolate.
And what the idea is that not just, so because I'm a guy who loves history but also very much interrogates it, the problem with archives in their traditional form is they are the domain of the converted. Nobody accidentally finds themselves there. They go there because they know the question they have and they know the material is there. So I am hoping that the way this would work, if we can get full funding, which we're working on, is that there is a kind of snapshot of a time, a geographical, generational, queer art making that this project can hold. So that if you would go to the site, there would be a brick and mortar place where everything is, but there would be a website where everything is held. And if you went to the website and you searched 1984, you would get everything everyone in that project was working on in 1984. So you would see what a generation and a geographical body was working on and understand something deeper than just what one holding has. That's the
Ooh, that sounds so good. I had no idea.
It's 11, that's how we first,
This
it
iteration.
kind of happened very organically. We sort of like, we know each other, this is what we put together. We hope it could maybe go on and expand, but first we would have to be able to actually raise the money for what we actually supposedly are trying to do already. But it could totally expand. It doesn't. It would hopefully be both. It would hopefully be a brick and mortar holding where there's a couple of places we're talking to, but it would, but there would also be this uniting website that would be available anywhere. That's the fantasy that I have for it. No, no, it's all good.
Great. So there's questions just about the LGBTQ Artists Archive project. There's 11 founding members, and there's questions about like, is that finite? And like the answer is this is where it started, because any archive project requires funding, and these 11 are pioneers in it, both to figure out how to make it digital in terms of increasing access for it, and then to ultimately find physical homes for these hard copy materials so people can find them, touch them, be in the same space with them. But it's also, you know, part of the American Theater Archive Project too, is educating people who are creating live performance now how to save materials of their process and product so that they can be preserved into the future. And we're all figuring it out together. And also, they're continuing to make work. So they're diving into their own archives all the time to pull something out and to remember it and to create new work and to push that forward. So it's really what is a living archive? How do you preserve it and how do you grow it? How do you fund it? And then, you know, when you're ready to be done, you leave it behind and then other people can take care of it for you. That's the goal here. So if anyone is interested in that, please contact us and we will, and if you have money, you can give it to this project and it's completely, and it will take your money because it's important work. As you saw tonight in this performance, like these stories mean something, these histories mean something, these neighborhoods mean something, and things always get erased and left behind, so how do we keep them alive for other people for whom it could also mean something?
Programming and also to offer best practices. So if people have questions, we can't, I mean, Elise and I can only do so much, but we are very happy to share information.
Yes.
And
also an open project, open project, and to help other artists and other projects to keep it going and to be interconnected, which is something we can do with the internet very well. And so we will keep pointing to each other and support each other along the way. Last thoughts.
Website.
We have a website.
We have a website.
Yes.
It's called LGBTQ
Downtown
Artists Archive. And everything is there. All the information about the project. This is a multi-year endeavor. This isn't going to happen overnight. Right now,
And also it started before everything changed a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
I completed a big artist archive, an artist-driven archive. It took 6 years, okay? It's not a quick process, but what our goal is twofold, which Ain articulated well, to have a permanent, you know, home and a legitimate collection, Library for the Performing Arts, Beinecke, you know, one of those places. And, or, you know, we're open. And also to create a place where this information that these people put together to be publicly available. And that's the website.
Also, just let me add that I don't know of what the show is like, as a person who loves archives, is what is interesting in an archive is not to go and see a video of a show that anybody could see a video of. What is interesting to see is the 5 drafts of the script before that video.
Yes.
That's why it takes so long, because anybody can archive in a video. It's archiving multiple drafts and memos and notes from the director, and that's what actually matters. That's, otherwise history is just the product, which is not what the show is and not what we're talking about.
You can also get us on, this evening is being streamed by Howl Round. And you can go to Howl Round and find us, and they'll lead you directly to our website and everything else. And we'd love to hear from people. We need all the support that we can get, and we're interested in the individual artist voice, you know, being remembered, and which means that we care about institutional archives, but there's something very different about archiving an individual artist's work by the artist while they're still living, and it makes for something, you know, it's a really good record. So we can leave it behind.
Yeah, so we'll wrap up with that. I think that, you know, what you just said is that this project and what I think your values here too, is that connecting to community, connecting to relationships, connecting to people in the telling of the story. And that's how this project actually only works, is by developing relationships with people. So if you know other folks who you think would be interested in this project, you know, this performance, but also the 11 artists who are involved in this archive project, who are continuing to do work, but also trying to save the records of their process and product. I know there are a lot of people out there in the world, but they're not like everybody. It's not mainstreamed. And so we have to connect to those other people to share this work. And thank you, HowlRound, for recording us and for putting us there. This is an amazing resource for the entire performance community. And that's how we spread the word. So it'll be really easy. You can like go online, you can just like send a link to your other friends who will be invested in this project and want to give money, donate time, be involved with these artists in the making of new work, and assembling their amazing archives, which are tremendous. So thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for staying for the discussion. Get home safely.
Amazing. Bye, world.